Bessie Coleman and her groundbreaking flights led the frontier in the aviation industry by destroying the gender and racial barrier by becoming the first African American and Native American woman to ever earn her piloting license and fly. During her lifetime, she was fascinated with aviation, but was hindered by blatant racism and discrimination in America during the 1910s and 1920s, leading to her going to France and earning her license to fly there. Aviation in its infancy was a white male-dominated industry where women, let alone African American women, couldn't fly. Shown in John Lancaster's The Great Air Race, only male aviators were in the skies, even in its infancy. The public opinion and societal norms at the time was that African American women were not capable of flying. Bessie Coleman was the pioneer of African American female aviators by overcoming adversity due to her race and gender. She diversified the airspace by proving that African American women were more than capable of flying airplanes and inspired African American women to take up the aviation profession. Bessie Coleman was born in Atlanta, Texas on January 26, 1892, to Susan and George Coleman, and was one of 13 children. Coleman grew up in Waxahachie, Texas, where she excelled at schooling, which allowed the young upstart to escape sharecropping by receiving scholarships and moving to Chicago. While there, she developed an interest in the new aviation industry. After saving up enough money to attend flight school, she was faced with the realization that no U.S. school would accept a black pilot. There was no known African American pilots at the time, so Coleman approached as many white pilots in schools as she could think of. All of them turned her down. Bessie, rather than giving up, learned French and was accepted into the Caldron Brothers School of Aviation in LaCroix, France. When she got to France, she was the only black person in her class, where her education was funded by many black philanthropists like Robert Abbott, who founded the Chicago Defender newspaper, and Jesse Binga, who was a banker. She received her piloting license from the Fédération Aéronautique Internationale on June 15, 1921, after 5 months of training. Bessie Coleman's greatest accomplishment was obtaining her pilot's license and learning how to fly despite facing racial and gender discrimination. Other examples of Bessie having to overcome adversity is when her plane crashed in 1923 after barely scraping enough money together to buy an old plane. The cause of the accident was fault at the engine when it suddenly stopped working and crashed. She suffered a broken leg and a few cracked ribs. Recovery from these injuries only held her from the sky for 2 years, as she went back to performing daredevil stunts in 1925. After the accident, she was quoted saying, "I am anxious to teach some of you to fly, for accidents may happen. I may drift out there and there will be someone to take my place," showing how not even physical injury would be enough to keep her from the air. Societal norms at the time were also against her. People resented her because they did not think a black woman should be able to fly. She countered racism by not performing in shows that were heavily segregated in the South. Upon her return to the United States, Coleman became a public figure and earned the nickname Queen Bess. She gave lectures and demonstrations on aviation, inspiring other women and people of color to pursue careers in the field. Her ultimate goal in life was to inspire others like herself to become pilots and have the same opportunities and chances she had. In addition to breaking barriers for herself as an African American and Native American woman, One of Coleman's dreams was to open a flight school for African American pilots. Even though Bessie never got the chance to open a school for African Americans, her life and her dedication to flying was one of the causes that pushed the airspace into letting African American pilots have the same opportunities as other races. In the years following Bessie Coleman's death, there was a small surge of women in general who joined the aviation industry. Bessie Coleman's aviation career was filled with turbulent times, continuing her pioneering journey. When Bessie Coleman returned to the United States in September of 1922, she wasted no time preparing her first show on Labor Day, September 4th. She became extremely popular in aerial shows and used her platform to rebel against segregation and Jim Crow laws. Bessie Coleman also spoke to black schools and churches to help blossom African American interest in aviation. Bessie Coleman's aviation career was so magnificent in the growing aviation industry that many newspapers commented on her career, astounded by her achievements, with headlines such as "First Negress Aviatrix" and "Pioneer Black Female Aviator Finally Being Recognized," demonstrating how her career was so monumental in the blossoming of aviation. Bessie Coleman was known for doing daring stunts at high altitudes, such as figure eights and loops in midair, leaving all who witnessed her in awe. The press were in a flurry of excitement over Bessie Coleman's excursion, getting reports from local, state, and national press, making her a household name in America. Bessie Coleman's career unfortunately came to a violent end while she was flying one of her routine air shows. Flying with William Wills, when an engine malfunction caused the plane to spin and dive. Bessie was not wearing a seatbelt during this incident and was flung out of the plane, to which she fell over 2,000 feet to her death. The story of Bessie Coleman was a truly inspiring one. She showed to the world that African American women were more than capable of flying. Even nearly 100 years after her death, Bessie Coleman's legacy still shines brightly today, as there are at least 150 African American women in the aviation industry today. The International Women's Air and Space Museum in Cleveland, Ohio, shows significant results of Coleman's life, like memorabilia, such as film based off of her death, a prototype $1 coin made to honor her, a postage stamp of her, a model of her airplane, and a small figurine of Coleman's in a pilot's uniform. The museum shows that Bessie Coleman truly showed that even in the face of adversity, one can still achieve and prosper. Throughout the years, people have remembered her and used her as a symbol of black female leadership and breaking barriers. In 2023, there was a quarter released by the U.S. Mint featuring Coleman. This is just one example of some of the many amazing ways Coleman has been remembered throughout the years. Other examples include things like a stamp being made to honor her, and even a pin with Coleman's face on it. This demonstrates how important Bessie Coleman was, not only to aviation, but to the black, female, and Native American community. As a whole, being the first female black and Native American aviatrix, she was incredibly important to challenging the gender and racial norms in the piloting industry and inspired people around the world to do the same as her.